The Detroit Tigers stay hot, baby. Let's talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Tigers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. So check out Booking.com for your stay today. Welcome in. Welcome all. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We are so back. The Detroit Tigers win another game and put up another really solid run total with an 8-2 victory over the AL Central leading Cleveland Guardians. They are now 12-5 in the month of July. That remains one of the best records in baseball in the month of July for, obviously, the month that we are currently in. They are now 50-51 on the season. I'm going to keep saying it, and I'm going to sound like a broken record to the point where it's going to be really annoying. Okay? Just keep winning. Make the deadline difficult. Make it annoying. Make the front office be like, oh my gosh, like now we have to face the music and make this tough decision and blah, blah, blah. Make it as difficult as possible. Wow, this light is really bright. I'm still not home, so sorry if the lighting is weird. It's really, my face looks very paler than usual. But just keep winning. Make it so difficult. Make it a really tough choice. Why not? Let's have a little fun for the change. Okay, it's been a while. So what went right in this ball game? We'll get to Tarik Skubal in a second. Obviously, he is every time he pitches. Honestly, one of the biggest stories in every game that he participates in, and that's kind of expected at this point. But this offense put up 8 runs. Look, Carlos Carrasco looked pretty rough in this ball game. The command was he was spraying the ball all over the place. He has not had a very good season, but you took advantage of it. And that's something that in June, just a short few weeks ago, you weren't doing to any pitcher. We were getting sliced and diced by pitchers that had 5 ERAs in Toledo when we're making their major league debuts. Like, I don't care how good or bad of a season you've had. I'm glad that the Tigers offense scored runs when they were supposed to. It's a low bar, but it's one that they weren't even meeting for a large portion of the season. So I'm going to gladly take it and not complain whatsoever. Scoring runs early is something this team has actually weirdly not been like horrible at. Like scoring in general, they were really bad at for a couple of months there. But even in those games, there was multiple occasions where it was like, oh, they're going to score in the first inning and then get shut out the rest of the game type of thing. And in this game, they have 4 runs after the first 2 innings had ended. You have Justyn-Henry Malloy hitting a homer yet again. That OPS is up to 770. Now, I know that there's still plenty of fans that prioritize batting average very highly, and that's fine, to each their own. Like I always say, you take in the game and analyze the game however you want, and however you do is totally fine. For him, he's just someone that, and I know I've said this a lot, this isn't like a new take, but for him specifically, like you're hoping to get the power and patience combo out of him. He's never going to be a 300 hitter. He's never going to be probably a 280 hitter. If he hit 270, it would be a massive win, right? Like you're probably like, oh, best case, he probably hits about 250, right? That's like best case scenarios. He's somewhere in that 240 to 260 range, maybe. But he is going to, at his best, walk a lot and give you a little bit of pop in the lineup. I cannot get over how bright this light is, dude. Can we it just got worse. I moved it further away and it got worse. Okay, then we're just going to do this. Right? So he's just a guy that you really want to, even if you're you're really big on batting average still and whatnot, he's a guy that you kind of have to look at the OPS because his value is so intertwined with power and with walk numbers. And that is going to be the best way to kind of see that. Now, I do want to see his batting average go up from 217. I'm not here to convince you that that's a really good number and we should all just be really happy with that. I don't anticipate if he played 162 games that his OPS would stay that high with a 217 batting average. I don't think that that's a sustainable type of thing, but I think that in general, I want to see him put the ball in play more. I'd like to see him go the opposite way a little bit more. I don't think he's got, he had a fly ball to the warning track to right field today. There's a lot of things with his approach we can break down and whatnot, but I think there's still quite a ways to go with his development. This one was a sinker up and inside, kind of belt high by the time it sunk. It was not a very good pitch. And I think it was only 91 or 92 miles an hour at most. So not a high velo pitch either. So not like, oh my goodness, he's finally turning on fastballs up and in, like sound the horns, kind of like we did with Colt Keith before the All-Star break there. But I do think that it is a really good sign, and B, he has improved on putting the ball in play. Now he's still striking out at a really high clip, and that is somewhat hand in hand with putting the ball in play more. But I think with him, it's one of those things where you want to, he's always going to strike out a decent amount. He's never going to have a high batting average, but it just needs to be higher than what it is currently in the same breath. Okay. I hope I articulated that even remotely decently. If I didn't, I apologize. Mark Hanna, 3-hit ball game. Really good to see. Kind of came up wincing after he slid at one point. Really brutal defense on one play by Canna, and I'm glad he had a 3-hit day because it I guess kind of made up for that rough. He really kind of screwed Tarik Skubal over there. I have no idea how he let that ball drop in front of him. It was a line drive that just hung up there. I feel like he had time to make a sandwich, reply to some emails, and take his dogs on a walk before the ball fell, and he still let it fall before and bounce and playing it off the bounce. So I don't know why he did that. Maybe he just didn't get a very good read on it. But regardless, we're talking about what went right here. Really solid day at the plate for him. And ever since honestly, just before the All-Star break, ever since he came back from the injury, quote unquote, even though he was never on the IL, just sat out for, 3 or 4 or 5 games. He's been swinging it much better, which is good. I don't know if it's going to lead to any value, from around the league as we head into the trade deadline, or if it's just you want a guy who's going to play as often as he does to produce. Either way, it's beneficial for everybody if he gets back on the horse and kind of looks even remotely close to how he did to start off the season. Okay, so I talked a lot more about Malloy than I expected to here in segment 1. I got a few more players I want to highlight. Then we'll get into what went wrong, which is not a very long list, and we will do all of that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Booking.com. This episode of Locked On Tigers is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rivals cities. We're playing Cleveland right now, right? I'll tell you what, I cannot stand the Cleveland Guardians. I have despised them on the field for my entire life. I'll tell you what, I love going to Cleveland. I grew up when it was called Jacobs Field. So that's but Progressive, whatever it's called these days. A great place to watch a ball game, great fans, great city. And you can check out great cities, even if you don't like the baseball team, using Booking.com. They have hotels that overlook stadiums, family-friendly resorts. Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this major league season. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. So book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. Booking.com. booking.yeah. Also got to tell you all about our friends over at FanDuel. I love sports so much. They are my life, if you have not been able to tell. I never want them to stop, but as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow recapping Game 2 against Cleveland. We'll talk about that game at the very end of the show and talking about, of course, anything else surrounding the Tigers organization. We got a little bit of outside news to talk about today in stuff as well. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the free 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, covering all the biggest stories in sports from all of our great hosts here at Locked On. You can subscribe for free, again, on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today, or check it out for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So talking about what went right, we talked a lot about Justyn-Henry Malloy. We talked about Mark Canha a little bit. Matt Vierling with a 3-hit day as well. 2 of those were very 2023 Matt Vierling hits, I'll call it. And look, we've been talking about since probably the beginning of June. Like he's found this power stroke, and they showed it on the broadcast. He's hitting off speed, low in the zone, better than almost anybody on the team. But the batting average in that time frame since the beginning of June has plummeted. Like he's been a borderline sub 200 hitter at times. Across the last month and a half-ish, almost 2 months now. And so in a perfect world, you marry those two, right? Like you have, okay, maybe later in counts or when you need to put the bat on the ball, you can have the approach that you had more last year where you're just trying to put the ball in place, slap the ball to the opposite way, and use your speed to get on base. And when you're early in the count, you can kind of risk and take that big swing and miss, pun intended, I guess. You can maybe unlock and unleash the power a little bit more. But it will be interesting to see if he can do that, because that I think is the best version of Matt Vierling. It's just a matter of whether that is obtainable. But really good. We saw both in this game, which is why I say that. I thought it was a really good game from him. He was able to, to start off the game, pull the ball deep into the gap, get a double. And then the other 2 ABs were soft hits the opposite way down the first baseline. So really good day at the office. And like one of them was like a blue broken bat thing. I'm not saying that that's like replicable necessarily, but I just think in a perfect world, that's kind of what you want to see from Vierling on a game-to-game basis. Winfield Perez, absolute dog. I talk about it all the time. I love this dude. Has 2 hits in this one, scores 3 runs, gets an RBI as well. It was a 721 OPS. Like I don't think his ceiling is very much higher than what he's doing, but what he's doing is like above major league average hitting. So like it doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to be some 850 plus OPS hitter. If he's a switch hitting outfielder that can play all 3 positions, can steal some bags, apparently, get a little bit of speed on the base paths, and doesn't strike out very much, puts the ball in play, and can have an OPS in the mid 700s and a batting average over 260. I'll tell you what, there's 29 other teams that would gladly take that on their roster as well. So I just love the dude, and I have been unbelievably impressed with the season he has been able to put up for the Detroit Tigers. And then Colt Keith crushes sliders. Shout out to Jerry Opiesenheimer on Twitter, who very famously has said very, very often that Colt Keith crushes sliders. And in this one, he turns and burns on a hanging slider over the heart of the plate, hits another home run. This offense continues to produce. In the month of July, they went 3 for 7 with RISP in this ball game. Situational hitting, we'll talk about from one specific player in stuff a little bit later, but was really good as well. I thought they were playing, like really good sound baseball, a lot of team first approaches and at bats and just trying to advance runners and whatnot. Beautiful, beautiful day to be a Tigers fan, man. And that was obviously highlighted by Tarik Skubal on the mound. Absolute dog. 7 innings, 10 hits, only 1 earned run, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. The stuff looked great. I think the stuff looked about as good as it usually does. Guess maybe a tick lower on some of the pitches, maybe the fastball at one point in the middle of the game, but it's still 97, 98. I thought the stuff was about as advertised. He still got his swings and misses as well. The big thing in this game was command. And it wasn't, this is the fascinating part about him, man, is his command wasn't awful. How do I word it? It wasn't awful in the sense of how far, distance wise, if you got a ruler out, how far he was missing. He was just missing consistently a little bit. Does that make sense? It was, okay, this changeup is supposed to be low and in to a righty, and it's low and down the middle, not even over the heart of the plate, still at the kneecap, still low in the correct spot, just, about 4 inches to the left than where he wanted it. So the bat's able to get on the ball, and, there's a shift. So there's no one at second base, and so it gets to the infield. 10 hits is a career high. That is the most hits he has ever given up in a start at the major league level. And yet he went 7 innings of 1-run ball. He's unfreaking believable. He's a bulldog. And I absolutely love him to pieces. Even the run he gave up was an Austin Hedges bunt, dog. Who cares? Austin Hedges barely bats 200 every year. And Vierling was playing back, probably because Austin Hedges has 4 career bunts in his, entire major league career. And the bases were loaded. Not really what you expect to see out of him there. Caught the defense sleeping. Good on you. Congrats. Tip of the cap. But that was the only run. Just a grinded out victory. He was fighting his command all game. The fastballs up in the zone are usually pinpoint right on corners, up and in or up and away. They weren't in this one. They were up over, center, but still up. He wasn't missing by 1.5 feet. He walked 1 batter. It was just, again, 3 to 5 inches away from where he wanted it pretty consistently all game, and still walked away with an incredible box score. He is still elite, genuinely one of the best pitchers in ball without pinpoint command. And when you give him that, he becomes literally unhittable. He's sensational, and I can't say enough good things about him. I do not anticipate the Tigers to trade him. We will obviously have that conversation more and more and more as the media continues to wear out the possibility of him getting traded, which seems to be every single day. I'm reading a new article or listening to a new, video that someone has made about why they should or shouldn't. I'm pretty ready for the deadline to be over, and we're still a week and a half away. So that's great. But he was unbelievable. Really quickly, I also thought Shelby Miller was really solid. Inconsistent command as well. Kind of let the fastball rise up there a little bit. But velocity-wise, I thought this was a really good fastball. And he has had an incredibly inconsistent fastball all season. So it was good to see him get some swing and miss and some outs with that. And then Andrew Chafin came in to close the door. I thought he looked great. We've talked a lot about how this bullpen is lacking a true strikeout, swing and miss type of guy. He has been that for the better part of a month now. And I think he's going to get some pretty darn high leverage situations going forward because he's pretty much the only guy that is that presently. Let's talk about what went wrong and then stuff. We will do that right after this. Got a telltale today about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience is the formula for winning championships and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more, whether you're into speed, power, or style. eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because at eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and all the prices you want, it's easy to bring your car home as the MVP and bring home those huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Also got to tell y'all about our friends over at Prize Picks, which is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 or 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on all the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. You can 100 times your money if you join Prize Picks right now. You can turn $10 into 1,000 with just 4 correct picks. There's a lot of excitement. Starting pitching strikeouts is a huge one that I talk about all the time on here, especially when Tarik Skubal is on the bump like he was on a Monday night. But you do player fantasy points in baseball, hits, RBIs, runs, home runs, you name it. You can get on all the action at Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So let's talk about what went wrong really quickly. Javi Baez. He actually went 1 for 4 in this game, but then got thrown out trying to extend a single into a double. He is, and we've talked about this. I feel like I say this on this show every week since like May. Like he's on pace to have one of the worst seasons, if not the worst offensive season from an everyday starter that we've ever seen in like the history of modern baseball, right? And it'd be one thing if it was like, oh, this dude has a 550 OPS, but he's playing plus defense. It's like, okay, this still sucks. It still isn't worth what we're paying him, and it's still a bad contract. But, you know, there's some value there. I cannot paint this any other way. This is literally one of the worst offensive seasons we have ever seen. Like, can we all wrap our heads around that? This is not just, oh, he hasn't been worth the money or, oh, he's been kind of bad. This is 451 OPS. Preseason, I'm pretty sure, I was trying to remember. I should write it all down next year so that I have a place that I can go back and like cite my own stuff on. But I'm pretty sure we talked about on here that if it was post All-Star break, or maybe I said post deadline, and it was like looking really poorly, that the Tigers would have to consider cutting ties with him, especially if they were in a race of some sort. Look, if you keep winning and you get to the middle of August and his OPS is, 440 and you're 2 games out of the wild card, I don't know how you can look everybody in the eyes and keep sending them out there, man. And I understand you don't have a lot of other options on the 40-man roster, which is why I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think he is going to be on the team the rest of this season, no matter what happens, to be honest. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And hopefully that's a new leaf that we can turn and we can get somebody else up here playing shortstop that is certainly a better hitter than what we have seen at shortstop between Javi, Kreidler, and McKinstry this season. But it's just, I think that's a this winter problem. I really don't anticipate them to do anything with him the remainder of the season. And then the only other person on this side of things was Easton Lucas. Unfortunately, rough Tigers debut. I can't imagine for this season. I can't imagine he's on the team very long. I really think that he's going to get sent down either Wednesday after the game or maybe even Thursday right before the day game. I would imagine whoever they want to start that ball game is probably called up then, but we'll see. If there's no one available, there's nobody available, and they're going to have to run 2 bullpen games in 3 days, which I don't think they want to do. But then, like, you just slide Maeda back in. Jackson Jobe. Okay, I've said my piece. It's not going to happen, but a man can dream. Let's talk stuff. Jake Rogers, inside the park homer. I think they ruled it a triple and an error. The pose at the end was really funny. I actually thought live he was out. And then on the replay, I was like, wow, that was bang, bang. That's about as close as you can get. I think you kind of got to go with the call on the field, unfortunately for Cleveland Guardians fans, and very fortunately for your Detroit Tigers. So yeah, just really cool. Jake Rogers, despite no matter what you think of him as a ball player, is a super fun personality, and clearly is really good for the pitchers in that clubhouse as well. Not that the inside the Parker has anything to do with that, but just a comment I thought I'd throw out there while we're talking about him. But yeah, just I don't know. Anytime you get a Little League home run, that's always a fun moment. And he was hauling. He actually does look like a bulldog when he runs. Like, that is the form, everything, just like full speed ahead. There's no like his agility rating in college football, 25 would be like terrible. Like, he's not going left to right. He's going full steam ahead in a straight line, baby. So that was fun to see. Gio Urshela, I wanted to give props to. He had 2 really professional at-bats in this ball game, worked the count, got fly balls to advance runners twice. It ended up being a 6-run ball game, so no one's going to remember it. No one's going to care about it. No one's going to talk about it. Dang it, I'm going to talk about it, all right? I don't know. I'm weird, and I still think that is worth talking about. Despite the fact that it wasn't a close game, but just really impressive to see him, A, work counts, because he usually doesn't. He usually just swings at everything. And B, again, just get the ball in the air enough for some hitters to advance on 2 different occasions, one of them being the sac fly, obviously. I was really impressed, and I really liked what I saw there. Just professional ABs from a veteran. Let's talk draft signees. We're done talking about this ball game. The Tigers are signing a lot of their players that they took in the first 7 or 8 rounds currently, and then they'll see how much money they have left over and try and go after some of the prep guys late, and then they'll probably go after some of the college guys later. Unless they're a college senior, then you're just going to get next to no money, and that's going to be that, unfortunately. Rayner was over slot. We knew that was going to happen. We talked about that on draft night. And then second rounder, this just happened Monday afternoon, Owen Hall goes under slot. He's a prep arm they took in the second round and got him under slot. I was almost certain it was going to take over slot to get him. So the fact that they went under there saves them some money to go throw some more cash at some of the other prep guys they took later in the draft. I think it's wonderful. Fantastic news. 2 thumbs up to everybody involved in that process. And then the only other news that I know for sure is it looks like Siebert, who we talked about being like the potential home run of the draft if they're able to sign him, will not sign. We knew that was a huge long shot. He's committed to Tennessee, and the Tigers took him in the 16th round. That was always going to be next to impossible to get him, and it sounds like he will go to Tennessee. So not a surprise there. And again, in the 16th round, I'm okay with the big swing and miss in this case. I'm okay with taking a long shot on a guy rather than like a college senior that in the 16th round that's probably never going to, be an impact player at the major league level. I'm okay taking a big swing like that. So that is the news we have as they continue to sign players. And when the signing period is done here, which happens, I believe, either the same day as the trade deadline or the day after the trade deadline, we'll kind of review and go through, how many they ended up signing and who they didn't and whatnot. My last question before we get you out of here and preview this game tonight is, what is the bar for not selling? What is it? What's the record? What is the record the Tigers need to obtain and be on trade deadline day for the front office to not go hard sell mode and trade Flaherty and trade Carson Kelly and et cetera, et cetera? Because as it stands right now, again, I know some people are really hyped up and whatnot, and I'm really hyped up. As I said, as I started the show with, keep winning, keep making it difficult Please give me a competitive summer of Tigers baseball. I'm begging. Okay, it's been a long time. But if the trade deadline was tomorrow, I would expect, could be wrong, I would expect the Tigers to still sell if the deadline was like today, despite the winning month and despite the fact that they're just under 500 now. So what is that mark? Is it obtainable? Does that even exist? Is there a record that the Tigers can obtain for them to not trade off their expiring free agent veteran deals? I'm curious. I'm taking notes. I'm noticing. Okay. Tigers play the Guardians again tonight. Cleveland will go with Xavier Curry, who has an ERA over 5 and just straight up has not been very, very effective this season. The one thing he's really good at is he is not going to walk you. You're going to have to earn it. But a lot of hitters have been earning it this year. And he doesn't have swing and miss stuff. Fastball, velocity is going to top out at 92, 93 miles an hour. And this is another opportunity for this offense to stay hot and put some runs on the board. Tigers are going with a bullpen day, and I'll leave you with just it's wild that Cleveland has been as good as they are, because I'm always putting Cleveland above where the general public does in preseason because I believe in their pitching factory so much and have for years. This year, and they have a lot of injuries, to be fair. I mean, they're starting pitching. Look at who we're getting this series, right? It's getting two guys with ERAs over 5. Bybee and Williams. And look, obviously the last two guys I said, those are some talented arms for sure. But it's not is it not the Tristan McKenzie got demoted this season? Does the Cleveland pitching factory still exist? I say that now we're going to get shut out by Curry here, but I don't know, just something that popped into my head while watching this game. I was like, man, I'm used to just getting kind of diced by guys with ERAs that are 3.8 that I've never heard of in Cleveland. That's kind of just how the last decade of Cleveland baseball has been. So just kind of interesting to notice. Okay, let's get you out of here. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. I appreciate you all greatly. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all then. Go Tigers.